In this video, we are going to explore integers. So first we must figure out and define what an integer is. So an integer is a positive and negative whole number. And let's just talk about whole numbers for a second. A whole number are our counting numbers. So our whole numbers are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, ... And the whole numbers include 0 as well, okay? And I like to think of that as a whole number, or it actually looks like a whole. It includes 0 as well, okay? So our integers are our positive and negative whole numbers. So our integers are our whole numbers, 0, 1, 2, 3, ... And our negative whole numbers as well, -1, -2, -3, ... The ... indicates that it goes on in both directions. And these squiggly brackets here, they're called braces, and we use those to define a list. Whenever we have a list, we use these squiggly brackets, okay? Now, the next thing we're going to talk about are opposites. And opposites, for example, are numbers like 3 and -3. Those are opposites. So when we're talking about opposites, we're not going to say opposite numbers. That kind of doesn't really make sense. What we're talking about are opposite signs. The sign is the same, the number is the same, the sign is what is different. So opposite signs. So what is the opposite of -7? And the answer to that would be 7. What is the opposite of 15? And the answer to that would be -15. Okay? Then we're going to use integers to represent situations. So, for example, what integer best represents this situation? A hot air balloon is currently at 6,000 feet above sea level. So the above sea level is our clue that this number is going to be positive because it's up in the air. Sea level, let's just make a little diagram. Sea level is 0. So right where the sea begins. Now, under sea level would be negative numbers, and above sea level are positive numbers. So things that happen in the air are like this situation, a hot air balloon or an airplane or a bird is flying, and our negative numbers, maybe a scuba diver is diving down into the water, there are fish, and whatnot. So the situation for this one is positive 6,000, the integer for this situation, okay? Example 3, right below it, says the lowest elevation in New Orleans, Louisiana, is 8 feet below sea level. Below sea level is indicating that this integer is negative. Okay? The next thing we're going to talk about is absolute value. So let's first define absolute value. And absolute value is the distance from 0. The distance a number is from 0. So, for example, what is the absolute value of -4? How far is -4 from 0? And the answer to that is 4. It is 4, I'm going to call it units, 4 units or 4 places from 0. Notice distance is always positive, right? You wouldn't say I ran -2 miles if you ran a distance, right? Distance is always positive. Even if you ran it backwards, you would still have run, 2 miles, okay? So that means absolute value is always positive. And we have these symbols for absolute value that we use. The absolute value of -4 is 4. That's the question we just did. So we're saying how far is -4 from 0? And these brackets, these little lines, they're not really brackets, but these lines are the absolute value bars, and they indicate absolute value. What is the absolute value of 15? How far is 15 from 0? And 15 is 15 units from 0. So the answer for absolute value is always positive. Okay? Let's do example 6. A bird dives down 12 feet. Write an integer for the situation. So if he dives down, he's moving down in the negative direction. So the integer would be negative 12. Then it says find the absolute value and explain its meaning. So the absolute value of negative 12 is 12, okay? And explain its meaning. So what is the meaning? What is the meaning behind the number 12? Well, 12 was how much the bird moved. Okay? It dove down 12 feet. Okay? So, it moved 12 feet. The negative before the absolute value indicated that it was moving down. But the 12 is how much it moved. Okay?